everyone, welcome to another video on the channel and welcome to another GT Sport Daily Raceat race review from this week's race, where we are visiting Alsace Village in reverse in the Group 3 machinery, and we've got a little bit of a scallywag to call out in this race. So the settings for this one up on the screen: 10 laps to get round, tyre wear at times 6, fuel at times 2, and we have both the racing soft and the racing medium tyre available, both of which are mandatory. So a little bit of strategy to go with this race. So let's take a look at the grid. Lining up in this one in P number 7, qualifying time of 1:49.9. Struggling a little bit in time trial. I think we should be a little bit quicker than that when I compare myself to some of the other drivers that I'm normally quite close to. But yeah, the lap time just not quite coming so far. But we're lining up in the FT1, which seems to be a very strong race car for this combination, as I kinda predicted within the strategy guide. It seems that the Beetle is very strong as well. The Supra is still favoured by some people, and surprisingly the Nissan GTR, in my experience, it seems to be a very strong car, not only in lap time but in terms of tyre wear. So lining up in P7, getting round the first sector, for halfway through the second sector without too much kicking off, but as we come towards the end of that second sector, we are going to make up our first position as a Renault RS01. A very brave choice from the Belgian driver there, has had a little bit of a moment, and we're going to sort of nip it up the inside into the fast right-hander and take that P6. I think the RS01 is actually top of the time trial leaderboards, but yeah, as I said in the strategy guide, MR cars in sort of race conditions, very, very tricky, kind of like the corners, mean that back end is very, very likely to step out quite a lot, and yeah, I wouldn't envy trying to take that car around the full race distance. So up into P6, up ahead we have two drivers that are quite notorious for their on-track behaviour, in King Russ the German and GT Arc the Italian, and one of those drivers is going to be our Scallywag. Can you guess what one it is now? As King Russ puts GT Arc into the barrier and takes that position off and drives into the sunset. Now, later on in that lap, as we jump forward here to the end of lap number 2, it appears GT Arc was on the soft tyres and had the run on as it down into the last corner. No point fighting that one at the moment. We're on the mediums, so we're going for the medium soft strategy. But yeah, I guessed from how quickly they caught us after that little incident that GT Arc was on the soft tyres. However, unfortunately, I don't really know what they were doing here. Just seemed to be off their rhythm. Despite being on those soft tyres, holding us up quite badly through the first complex, and actually costing us around about 0.8 of a second to the Beetle behind, Jim Bobalob, who is going to feature a little bit later in this video as well. But eventually GT Arc here appears to kind of semi-get themselves back into rhythm and start pulling away on those soft tyres, as you would expect, and yeah, let us actually now lap as we should be. But as you can see, as we go through the first checkpoint here, half a second down on our first flying lap. It wasn't exactly a great lap to start off with, quite a costly little exchange there. So under pressure now from Jim Bobalob in the Beetle. The Beetle, as I said, does appear to be a very strong race car along with the FT1, and we are under pressure from that driver as we come into the second sector. Just up ahead though, GT Arc is going to have a little bit of a moment into this left-hander here. I don't know if we just kind of upset our rhythm here. We got on the throttle just a little bit too heavily, have a big old moment, save it quite nicely in all fairness, very, very nearly kill not Sir Jim Bobalob, just Jim Bobalob. Thankfully though, we don't actually take that driver out or any of the other drivers out. We do lose 3 positions and lose a couple of seconds, but yeah, could have been a lot worse than it turned out in reality. So jumping forward a lap here on to lap number 4, we're going to make a move down the inside into the last corner here on the Spanish Beetle. Getting to the inside here because we are intending going into the pits, but you can see even with our intentions made clear, we still struggled to get the car all the way over to the left hand side of the track to get into that pit lane. A very nasty pit lane entry, I must say. But onto the soft tyres we go now. Jim Bobalob has had the same idea. Let's see if we can get a little bit of an undercut on some of the other drivers we were fighting with. Towards the end of that lap, we can see the yellow flags are out, and it looks like a driver has come a cropper trying to enter the pit lane. Screwed the pooch, if you like. And I want to kind of just show this here, a nice little bit of sportsmanship. Here's the Spanish driver here. This driver was in competition with us in that group of drivers. Appears to have made a mess of the pit entry, and they're just going to let us through here over the crest of the hill, knowing their race is over, knowing they're not really racing with us anymore. And I thought it was a nice little bit of sportsmanship from the Spanish driver, and not holding our race up in any way, shape or form. Coming towards the end of lap number 6, we have the soft runners coming into the pits, so this is going to be pivotal. Who are we going to jump? What position are we going to work out in once all the pit stops are completed? And just up ahead you can see King Russ, the German, has emerged into sort of path of Jim Bobalob and another Spanish driver, Conde, who's actually jumped all of us in the pit stops and lost a couple of positions to them. And it's going to seem that that's maybe going to trigger King Russ a little bit. Doesn't seem to be very happy at all with how that situation has worked out. You can see he's all over the road up ahead of us, making all kind of sort of unnatural moves. He's going to hit Jim Bobalob and then just push the Spaniard aside. That's going to allow us a through into another position, but yeah, I can see that the German here is going to kind of make some interesting moves, so to speak, in order to try and make her back up those positions. But yeah, this is definitely going to be the worst one of the lot here. I don't know how we thought this was any kind of legitimate move, but just fires it down the inside of Jim Bobalob, using that car to sort of basically stop him from going off the track, and up into 4th position he goes. Now I have to be honest with you, I expected Jim here just to fully retaliate at some point, as I gotta be honest with you, quite rightly so in my book. That was just an absolutely disgusting move from King Russ, but Jim keeping it together. He's trying still to race fairly though, but King Russ is not going to let him back through in a fair manner. I think that's fairly obvious at this point. We're now under the close attention of Conde behind us, and we've got an interesting little 4-way battle here going on, and not a very quick fashion of driving this. We're going to kind of come across the line here in a 154 when we should be probably doing a 151 at this point. You can see King Russ is defending as though his life depends on it down into the last turn there. As you see, a 54.5 when we should probably be doing a 51.9. But King Russ again going defensive into the first corner. It's not a nice situation to be in this when you've got two drivers fighting as hard as that in front of you. You're not entirely sure where to place your car. I knew at some point this was going to go south though between these two, and unfortunately King Russ is just going to nudge Jim off the track. Jim, the innocent party, once again. We make up the position there, and then Conde, a bit of an opportunist move here. I wasn't particularly happy with this one, given that, he didn't really make the apex. He was never going to not make contact with our car there, and I'm pretty sure he's on much worse tyres than us as well, as you're going to see as we go through the next few series of corners. We have much more grip. This kind of annoyed me it kind of annoyed me for two reasons. One, we were always going to get back past the Spanish driver here. These tyres were always going to be second best at this point, and two, it stopped us from getting up to King Russ, because I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, at this point I felt like we had to maybe do a little bit of a white knight, take out King Russ and let all the drivers that he's pushed off the track back through, and set the record straight, do the right thing for the race. But with the Spanish driver in front of us here, we were losing time to King Russ all the time, and it was going to make it very difficult for us to get up into that 4th position and do a little bit of retaliation. Now, I'm not in any way, shape or form condoning retaliation, but with the lack of the GT Sport penalty system at the moment, sometimes this is the only way we can sort of teach drivers who are going to drive like that a little bit of a lesson. If the game's not going to do it ourselves, sometimes it takes us to step up and do the right thing. We do eventually get by the Spaniard here. We've got 2 laps to try and catch King Russ, and we do get very close into the last corner of the last lap, but yeah, not enough time to actually get close enough to try and take that position, or to be honest with you, put him in the wall. Unfortunately, I forgot to save the post-race chat, but needless to say, King Russ was getting a little bit of grief of several drivers whose races he had affected, and quite rightly so. So let me know what you think of that race. What do you think of King Russ's behaviour? Would you have been disappointed to see me take out King Russ as I was talking about? I'm not entirely sure I would have done it, but it was definitely within my mindset as I was closing up on him. But let me know what you think of the race. Please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I shall see you on the next one. Goodbye now.